Your host, Matt Brunquell. Before we get started, I want to review a few housekeeping items. For those of you new to Composer Technologies, we're part of a publicly traded software company, Daegis. Daegis was previously known as Unify and has been in business for over 30 years. We're known for being the first to deliver a relational database in the Unix environment. And since then, we've delivered development software products that run across different databases and platforms geared towards building and modernizing business applications and to the business application developer who places a premium on productivity over low-level coding. Now, our modernization business has been expanding over the last 6 years, and we recently spun it into its own division called Composer Technologies. Now, we encourage questions on the webinar, and the way you do that is to use the Q&A button on your WebEx toolbar. It's the button with the question mark. Now, there's also a chat button, but it just makes it easier for Khalid and George and I to look in one panel for the questions to make sure we address all of them. Now, I mentioned Khalid, and that's Khalid Beg. He'll be providing the demonstration portion today, and Khalid is our Director of Migration Services. He's been involved in both Oracle Forms upgrades as well as Oracle Forms conversion projects to Java, and he's also actually programmed in Forms. So it's a great opportunity, and it's just a real treat to have someone with Khalid's background and experience on Oracle Forms who's worked on Java conversion projects demonstrating for us today. So with that, we'll go ahead and review the agenda. So the objective for today's webinar is to provide you with information on converting Oracle Forms applications to browser-based Java applications in Oracle ADF. Now we'll start with an introduction that includes an overview of Composer Technologies and CipherSoft, and then next we'll provide a brief overview of Oracle ADF. Now ADF is a very expansive topic, so we're going to focus on the user interface components, since today's webinar is about conversion to a browser-based application in ADF. And we'll also look at the key considerations for Java conversion in general. And we'll follow this up with a demonstration so you can see how easy it can be to convert an Oracle Forms application into Java and ADF. The demo will use ADF components for the user interface layer, and so we'll show you the demo, what the Oracle Forms app looks like before, the conversion, and then we'll go ahead and show you some of the converted code, and we'll follow this up with a Q&A session. So CipherSoft is a part of Composer Technologies, and the solution we're going to show you in the demo today for the conversion is Composer CipherSoft. And CipherSoft is an established and very successful set of solutions for modernizing Oracle Forms applications. We're a member of the Oracle Modernization Alliance, or OMA. The OMA is an Oracle initiative to help customers modernize their older applications and infrastructure. And CipherSoft is really all about modernizing Oracle Forms. That is the focus of CipherSoft in Composer Technologies. Now, just for a quick review of ADF, Oracle ADF stands for Application Development Framework, and it's Oracle's Java framework for building enterprise applications. In order to support enterprise applications, it supports many different Java technologies and components. If you wanted to build a Java EE application with a model view controller or MVC architecture from scratch, ADF offers a persistence layer and a model layer to build and code upon. And ADF is included with the Oracle Application Server license. However, ADF can be purchased or licensed separately to be deployed on other application servers. Now, we don't have time to go into all the different Java technologies of ADF and the framework there, but for today's webinar, we want to touch on ADF Faces. ADF Faces is a set of graphical components for building rich user interfaces in a browser or thin client. And the user interface or UI components have built-in properties, much like the UI components in Oracle Forms. So applications converted with our solution are Java EE applications with an MVC architecture, and in the case of the demo today, they're going to use the ADF UI components in the presentation layer. Now, there's only a few component examples listed on the slide here, but it's important to note that the number of components was significantly expanded in ADF 11G. So the number of UI components went from approximately 100 or so in ADF 10G to about 150 in ADF 11G. And just as important, the built-in properties were expanded on some of these components as well. And the reason I bring this up or go into this is that when you're trying to create the rich functionality of a client-server forms application in a thin client environment, that additional components and the expansion of the properties is very, very key. And so ADF 11G should really, if you're going to go ADF, then ADF 11G is the key target you should be looking at if you're going to be taking a Oracle Forms type of application over into that framework. Now, ADF Faces is built on the open standard Java Server Faces, or JSF, but what Oracle has done with the JSF components is extended them with additional properties and components so that you can create these things that Oracle Forms customers have been accustomed to. Now, for the key considerations on a conversion project to Java for an Oracle Forms application, a migrated application should be as intuitive for the original developers to maintain as it is for the new developers who may have no experience in the technologies used to write the original software. So practically speaking, this means that your solution should provide a one-to-one conversion in the code as much as this is possible. Now, the impact on the end users of the application need to be considered as well. And reproducing all of the functionality of the application is, when you're taking it over into a new platform, is not enough. It needs to behave similarly over in the new environment in order to avoid retraining on the application. And for applications with a large number of users, avoiding retraining can be a significant cost savings. Another key consideration there, which isn't really listed on this slide, is customers can also use the same scripts for testing functionality from the Oracle Forms application with this like-for-like conversion approach. And our customers find this as a lower risk approach to do a migration of a like-for-like first, minimizing the amount of extending and modernizing of the application, and doing that longer term after you get the application over into the new platform. They realize kind of that rewriting the application from scratch, users are going to have to navigate differently, and also just successfully testing all of that functionality that's become migrated becomes very challenging if you're having to do it from scratch. And then it also makes resolving errors in the new application more difficult if you don't do a like-for-like, because you can't compare it directly with the original Forms applications in a like-for-like manner. So this is truly the quickest way to get it over, but also the lower risk approach in terms of getting it over successfully. And then once you have it there, you can look at modernizing it and changing it and extending it longer term instead of trying to change both the platform and the application at the same time. Now, this graphic illustrates some of the keys to creating a path for the developers, from the developer perspective, involved in a migration project, whether they're the original Forms developers or Java developers. And we see both, actually, in projects. We'll see some projects where it's the original Forms developers who've had some basic Java training that are doing the migration project. And in other cases, it's actually Java developers and experts who have very little background in Oracle Forms. So both examples are very realistic and very doable, or some blend in between. But in addition to producing clean Java code, keeping the file structure of the components and objects organized much as they were in Oracle Forms provides a reference point for both the original Forms developers as well as the Java developers that they can follow. And in particular for Oracle Forms developers, this also eases the learning curve into Java if they're not experts in Java yet. Now, keeping that in mind, we talk about making it easier for the Java transition. And Oracle Forms knowledge is rewarded, but by keeping this terminology and object and method names and the class hierarchy and all of that. However, the generated application still needs to be a 100% Java EE application. And in the generated architecture, the key concepts and fundamental principles of object-oriented programming should be easily identifiable and should be part of the method or approach. You'll see that in the conversion solution we show you today. You'll see well-known Java design patterns, as well as classes, inheritance, interfaces, packages, abstract classes, polymorphism, method overloading, all of those types of things, Java data types. It is a Java application using the best practices of Java programming. It's following the model view controller architecture, and the application can be maintained and extended in most Java IDEs. Now, this example in this illustration shows just a few examples of the application business logic layer, and we can go into the architecture in more detail during the demo. You should also know we have a white paper available as well on the architecture, but we'll also be taking a look at the presentation layer in the demo that uses the ADF UI objects. So at this point, we'll go ahead and demonstrate the conversion step in a migration project, and some key points to keep in mind during this demonstration. We're going to convert the Oracle Summit application. It's not as complex as some of your applications, but it does have a lot of the characteristics that you would see in your more real-world application. So this application has a menu, it has libraries, it has business logic in addition to multiple forms and canvases. We're going to do a full conversion of the application, but note that you can just do pieces. For example, you could just convert the PL SQL, or once you converted it, you could convert the presentation layer into some of the different options. It doesn't have to be ADF. If you don't want to be, you can. There is a browser-based presentation layer option available that isn't ADF-based and does not put any business logic on the client side. Now, we're going to show you a like-for-like conversion, which is, we think, really a key approach to doing these migrations from Oracle Forms to Java. So the presentation layer will be deployed in the browser, and we'll show you a side-by-side so you can see it truly is a like-for-like. But just so you know, there is the option to do some modernization as part of the conversion. You may have certain standards and templates that you adhere to for your browser-based applications, and you certainly can take advantage of that during the conversion through the use of cascading style sheets and methods like that, so that you can do some modernization as part of the conversion. But we're going to do a like-for-like in this case. Now, with that, what I'm going to do is turn the WebEx over to Khalid for the demonstration. And just give me a moment while I turn the control of the WebEx over to Khalid. And Khalid, I think you're off mute. You might want to just say hi so we know you're there.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I would be doing the demo for a Summit application today in ADF environment. So once Matt gives me the presentation authority, I will share my desktop and we will go from there. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to do it soon. So you should all be seeing my desktop, which has a blue background and some of the icons there, obviously. So what I would do basically is I would show you the Oracle Forms application, how it runs and what the application is all about. It is a Summit application with 3 forms, 1 menu and 2 libraries. It's not too complicated application, but this application contains most of the components that Oracle Form uses, like radio button, checkbox, different type of canvases like tree canvases, master detail relationship is present in there, and almost all the components you would normally use in Oracle Forms application. The logic is not that difficult. There is not too much of PL SQL code, but there is 2 libraries that has some code in there. So I will start by showing you the Summit application if you haven't seen it before. If you see, this is the main customer form that has the tree structure. Obviously, it has a drop-down list of value. By changing drop-down, it will change this one. This has a master detail relationship. So tree is the master, then this one is the detail, and the detail of this one is here. So, and it obviously calls another form, order form, and it passes the variables like global variables, system variables. So our framework, which is Composer CipherSoft, handles all sort of system variables, all 3 modes like enter query, execute query mode, and normal mode. It also handles all the global variables. So if you have set up a global variable in the first form, you can use that global variable in any of the calling forms as you can do in Oracle Forms, as far as you don't erase that global variable during the process. So the third form you would see is a pick form that has all the images and everything. So, and this order form also has like image off, image on, which brings a point that we do handle all sort of set item property or block property. Like during the process, you can say like, okay, depending on this condition, you can set a item property to off or item property to on. Or set a visual attribute properties. So all those things can be handled easily. Different sort of canvases can be handled, like for example, content canvases here. There is an MDI window canvas. So basically this application contains most of the components and functionality that a typical Oracle Form application would have it. The second thing which I would do and show it to you is the conversion tool, and this is our Composer CipherSoft conversion tool. On the surface, you will see there are not too many items or data available on the conversion tool. We have tried to make it as simple as possible, so there would not be like too difficult to set up options and this and that. So first thing you would see is the conversion process. There are 3 different conversion processes you can use. One is to convert Oracle database packages. If you are moving from Oracle database to some other database, you can do that. But in this demo, I'm going to only show you the library conversion, which is your PLL files, then menu conversion, which are your MMB files, and the form conversion, which are your FMB files. So these are the 3 type of conversion processes you can run. For Java package prefixes, like this is a Java package name that will be included in all classes that are generated in this conversion. You can change COM, for example, to AU for Australia or for something else if you want to. Company name and the application name depend whatever you want to change to basically. Presentation layer, there are 2 type of different presentation layer. One is Oracle ADF JSF, and the other is just pure Java classes with plugin. Character encoding, like if you are converting an application which is non-English application, you can use your encoding and it will convert that application to a required encoding basically. Input folder, output folder. Last thing is the database connection. We do not write anything on the databases. We only read for the references, and it is a normal practice for Oracle Form developer to reference a variable depending on a table column, or you can reference a row in the table, like so it will take the structure of that row basically. So that's the only reason we define this connection. What I would do next is to start the conversion. When you are doing a conversion, it is your choice. Either you can start with library conversion first, which is what our recommended path, but you can start forms first before library, or menu first before form or library. It's your choice, but the normal path we adapt when we are doing any project here is to do the library conversion first, then menu conversion, and then forms conversion. So I'm going to start with library conversion. As I said, obviously in library there is no presentation layer, so we cannot select if it is an ADF or plugin version. So I'm going to just browse which library to convert. I take these two libraries and which files to convert from these selected ones, and then I do that and then press the conversion tool. Once I do the conversion tool, and once I will do the conversion tool, there would be a log file that would display, and this log file will be displayed for each process you would run. Either you are converting libraries, menus, or form. And the other thing for this log file is that it is kept for every day. For example, if you have done some conversion today, you are doing some conversion tomorrow, then 2 months down the road, if you want to see what conversion is done on November 28th, you can go back on that log file and then see what you did and go from there, basically. So this log file is kept for every day and for every process you run for conversion. One thing I forgot to say here is analyzer, and I will let Matt define analyzer later after I'm done with my demo, what analyzer can do for you. The second thing I would do is the menu conversion, so I'm going to select, and as soon as I select the menu conversion, you will see that presentation layer options come back. So I can select that it is a ADF conversion, and I will select my menu file here and then press the convert button. Since they are very small files, as I said, like the file sizes are small, like typically what we do and what our processes have done is that 1,000 line or about 1,000 to 1,200 lines can be converted in a minute. So if you have like 100,000, you would know how much time it would take for the conversion. So once the menu conversion is done, it will show you a log file again. The last thing I would do conversion for is the forms conversion. And again, I would select this ADF option here, browse for the forms, which are this one, order form and pick form. I select all these three, put it on the right side for conversion, and press the convert button. And again, these are the forms, and it's fast conversion, so it takes it. And then once the conversion is done, and the forms, there are there are two main passes that forms conversion done is once to extract the PL SQL logic in program units as well as in triggers and convert the Java classes for those things. The other pass it does is the presentation side. For example, list of value, canvases, and things like that. It will do pass for that, and it will convert the proper ADF presentation layer files. So I'm just going to quickly check everything ran fine, completed. So I'm going to close this. The last thing, once the conversion is done, or in between the conversion also, like for example, if you are doing a partial conversion, then what you need to do is to create the WAR file, which is web archive file, and that is the file that you can deploy on an application server. And again, the choice of application server can be any which, like for example, it can be Oracle Middle Fusionware, it can be Oracle Application Server, IBM WebSphere, or Tomcat, or JBoss, or whatever you want to use. The WAR file can be deployed according to the procedure that are available for that application server. So this is the last step that does that, and as I was mentioning, either you can do in middle of the conversion or you can do after everything is converted. So it's your choice when you want to deploy the WAR file and then see how the things are appearing and running or functioning. So I'm going to select this one, and again my presentation layer is this one. Here you can give the main form name. Like again, in most of the application we have seen, there is a form that is driving the rest of the application, or calls the other forms, or call through the menu or something like that. So you can provide that name here, and as you provide that name, when you run the application after deployment, the first form that will appear depend on what you have provided here. So in this case, I'm going to give the name as customers. Do you want to compile the Java code that is converted in this process? I would say yes. And the next step I have to do is say generate. And what it will do, it will compile the Java classes here, and once it is done, it will say that it is completed. So once the process is done, basically, you would see that there is an output submit folder we just finished creating, and it will create a WAR file for me. What I can do is copy that WAR file from here, put it under Tomcat Web Apps folder, and then start my server. All the connection strings and everything is taken basically when you deploy this application. It takes the connection string for WAR file from here. Whatever the connection string you have given, it will take it from here. So you don't even have to change the connection string unless you want to go to a different database for testing or development. Then there is a process to change that connection string. So I'm going to open a browser here, and I already have this link here that will start my application. And since it is an ADF application, browser-based, everything will be under the browser rather than as a plugin. It will run as a desktop application, but in this case, it is browser-based. I'm gonna give and login authentication is done exactly the same way as your authentication is done on Oracle Forms. So when you log in, when I say like my username and password and press OK button, it goes back to the database, and if everything is fine, is authenticated, then it will come back and then display the first form that I have given during the process of creating the WAR file. If there is a problem with the login, then it will obviously give you invalid username, password, or if the password has expired, it will give you the password has expired, and you can change those right there basically. I'm going to actually make it smaller so we can fit together side by side. So that's the Forms application on the left side, and the ADF application on the right side. So you click this one, and what happens when you click this one, basically it will show you the detail on the master here and the detail of this master here. So master detail relationship from the Forms has been ported to the ADF application as it was in Form. The drop down list, like for example, if you click this one here, there is a trigger which says like when list change, it changes the order of the trigger. So if I select, for example, this one, it has 3 records in there. It displays all the 3 records in here. If I click this one, you will see that record here would change. And also if I select this one, and if there are more than 4 rows or about 4 rows, it will show the scroll bar. So if there are more than 4 rows, you can scroll down as you do normally. This button basically does the sorting. So if I click this one, you will see that the sorting is changed in the sorting order. It can sort this on a phone number order, and obviously sale number are the same, so it will do this remain the same. So all those triggers that were defined, like the dynamically where clause are set, master detailed relationship is set, and one more thing last I would show is this for list of value, for example. You can use the list of value as you were using before. So when a list of value pop-ups, you would see that the background gets disabled. So unless you press an OK button or cancel button, the background remain disabled. You cannot go back. So we are stopping that process right there and then going from there. So I'm going to go back into the customer and select my Unisport the same way as you are seeing here. So double clicking on form side, open this one, and then double clicking here also does the same thing, which fires when mouse double click event, and then it displays this there. The only difference you will see in Oracle form and ADF, because ADF is displaying HTML pages one at a time, so that's why you are not seeing form at the background like the customer form. It is showing only order form here. Again, if you have a stock here, and if you press the stock here, you would see that it will show the page for a stock rather than like MDI window. So you can close this one, go back, and then it will show you back. Image on, image off, the same thing. You can dynamically display the value depending on what you want to see. Help, again, the same thing. As you were saying, like there is a content canvas which will disable the background canvas. And it goes like that. So third form basically is this with images and everything, so you can see how it looks. And the same thing, when you exit, it will display, do you want to leave? The same thing, you will say, do you want to leave the form? There is an alert basically. So alerts are converted also, and alerts are the same thing as a list of value. When alert or list of values are pop up, the background screen get disabled. So unless you press OK or no or yes or whatever you have to do in alert, the background screen would not get enabled. So you say, for example, yes here, and it will go back. Same as yes here. It will go back and display the forms again. So that's actually the presentation side of ADF that I did. The next step I'm going to do is to display the business logic, how the business logic is converted, how the package has been aligned, and all those things. So if I go back in Oracle form, I'm going to choose, for example, the customer form, and if you see there are blocks, there are 5 blocks. The same I'm going to do in JDeveloper. There is a submit application. Submit application has sources here, right here. I've already set up in JDeveloper basically. So you can see like how we have defined this thing. Like this com and sports score come from the conversion tool that I was showing you before. So this is where the com and sports score come. The application name Summit will go here. So it goes com, sports score, and Summit. For libraries and menus, it creates these 2 names you cannot change, but for application name you can change, and this package name and the company name you can change. So for libraries, there are 2 sub packages. One is called calendar, because this is one of the name of the library, and this is a pick list library which creates its own Java code after the conversion. For menu, the same thing. The menu has the main, like if I see the menu here, M Summit, it has the items like the main item, like main menu item, file menu item, and if you see in the file menu, for example, there are sub items which are called save, this one. So there are file menu, there are items like save, and if you click save, for example, and if you click save here, it is saying when you press the save button on the form, it will do a commit form. The same thing we are doing here. That brings another point what Matt was showing in the PowerPoint, and that was we are keeping the look and feel the same, as well as we are keeping the same naming convention. So for example, if your item was called save, it will remain as save with Java as an extension. If you have a do key commit, you will see that the same built-in is carried over. It is called do key commit. So for me as a form developer, moving to this application and learning Java and moving to this Composer CipherSoft framework, I didn't find that difficult to understand the architecture as well as framework as well as the coding and everything, because as soon as I can see all these things present here. So the menus are done the same way, like the structure is same. I'm gonna go in one of the forms, for example, at this time. We shouldn't take too much of time. So customer is the name of the form. Customers is the name of the form. it has 5 blocks. All these 5 blocks are here, and then at the end you will see that each block has its own item. So it is a S customer. S customer has its own item like address and city and everything. What I would like to show you here, at the customer level, you will see there is a file called customer.java. And what that file contains basically, it contains all the form level components like alerts and program units and parameters and attachment to the libraries or form level triggers and program units. So I'll start with alerts. So if you see any alert here, there is a delete alert. Delete alert is defined as the name of the alert. What is it? Style is caution. It is a style as caution. What are the 2 buttons? Yes and no are the 2 buttons. What is the default button? Yes is the default button. And then again, like the text, this is the text right here. The same is for the second alert. If you open form level triggers, you will see that there are preform, when window close, and all these things. Right here you see the naming convention is exactly the same. Let me see if I can open, let's see, on this is a smaller one, but I can, or maybe I can show preform also. It is saying like default value, it is setting a global variable with default value as null. Same is done exactly here. You can see the global variables are set, the default values are set, and then it goes from there. The same is when window closed, when new form instance. These are the like set item property, set application, window property. You are refreshing this and you are saying go block is same, and then it goes basically the same way. At the, if you see further down, there are program units. All these program units are also defined here. Collapse all, for example. If you go collapse all this is all defined here basically. When you press, like for example, in this code, when you say like this thing, like it will collapse all basically, and then it will go from there, and then it will fire the trigger. So all these triggers are present in this. Next thing I would show you one of the block I was showing. So at the block level you will see a file called the block level name.java, and basically that file contains the block level triggers. So if I go back in as customer, there is only one block trigger, and then it is called as customer. It is right defined post this one, and there is a select statement, how the select statement is defined and how it is being executed and retrieve the records back. So that's how the Java code is defined. Like you can see, there is a customer. Customer is the form name. It has blocks. Blocks have items. So each block has its own items right here, ID and all these things. And at each level, you will see there is a, like for example, at customer level, there is a customer.java. Block level, there is a block name.java, and item level.java. These defines the triggers at that level. So if there is a trigger at an item level, then it will fire that trigger, and depending on the property, it might not fire the block level trigger or the form level trigger. So the functionality remains the same, which brings another point that Matt was defining, the end user testing. So we are trying to minimize end user testing by creating the same look and feel, by using the same functionality that you were using in forms before. So the end user testing will minimize as much as possible. And for ADF, actually, JDevelopers provide you a method, basically, I would say, or a way to for example, I'm going to take one of these canvas. For example, if I go in here in the canvases, you see that this is the main cust canvas. So it is a main cust canvas, which is a tab, and it defines something like that. So if you see right here, this is the part which is in this file. So you can either see the sources here. Sources are defined right here, and it's all like converted during the conversion process, or you can see the design part and then do whatever you want to do. So Matt, basically, this is what I normally show during this demo on the technical side. So if there are any questions, we are ready to take those questions.
Great. So thanks, Khalid. So now we'll do the Q&A. And remember, use the question mark button on your WebEx toolbar to post a question. And we'll give you a minute or so to post your questions, and then we'll come back on and start going through them. All right, there's a few questions coming across, so we'll go ahead and start on these, and we'll see if any more come across while we address these first few. The first one is about the analyzer, Khalid, that you mentioned. And so someone is asking, tell us more about the analyzer. So I'll go ahead and do that. Part of this solution that you saw for the conversion actually has an analyzer. And what the analyzer does is you would run your files, your FMBs through, and it will tell you what are the things that it does not convert automatically. And there's a couple reasons why it might not convert it automatically. One is there just are some things that you shouldn't convert automatically when you're moving over to the Java architecture. So it's going to flag that, and so you make a decision of what you're going to do with it. Another one is sometimes there's some actual Oracle libraries in there that are owned by Oracle, so it'll flag those because if you don't have the rights to the source code, you don't want to be converting that. And then other times, there's just not a standard equivalent, if you will, or one-to-one obvious equivalent to the command over in Java. One example of that is a goto. There's many different things the goto could be used for. So the analyzer, those are just some of the examples. What the analyzer does is it'll flag all of those in your application, tell you here's how many there are, here's where they exist, and we actually use those analyzer results, and we can tell you here's exactly what it's going to take to finish this application or get it into production after you go through the automated conversion piece. Typically what we find in a project is that there are anywhere from 6 to 18 commands that get flagged by the analyzer. Obviously it can vary based on your application, but it's usually within that range depending on how big and so forth. Now out of those commands, some of those commands might appear many, many times, but there's some number of commands flagged and they occur, so many occurrences for each of those. Typically what we see, we're always able to find an alternative for those in Java, although in some cases like the gotos, the customer will actually go through their Oracle Forms app and modify that before the conversion so that into something that the converter will handle. But anyway, there is something to address that. We actually have a white paper on this with examples, and it typically represents a very small percentage of the overall code, and in terms of actual effort for addressing those, very often it's just 1 to 2 weeks of effort in the project overall. Sometimes it could be more, but more often than not, that's what we see in terms of the amount of effort to address those commands flagged by the analyzer. So that's a little bit of detail on that. Next question. Let's see here. Here we go. Have you done a conversion where the Oracle Forms had used Head Start and Designer as part of the original development? I'm going to let you answer that one, Khalid.
Yes, as far as, like for example, Designer has the process to generate the forms, and those are the forms that you use to convert to run the application. So what we do is we take those forms which are generated by Designer and we can convert them to Java basically. So yes, the same is Head Start is sort of a case tool again, and if it can convert Oracle Forms with FMB, MMBs and PLL extension, we can use those for the conversion to Java.
Great. Next question. When selecting a form for conversion, I thought I saw the form names with a file extension of TXT or text, not FMB. Is this observation correct?
Yes, that is correct basically. What we do, we recommend that FMBs and MMBs and PLL should be converted to the text format and we have a process that we normally provide to the clients so they can create those automatically rather than opening one form and creating a TXT for that. We have a process that you can create like thousands of form TXT files and go from there. The reason we did that because the forms have different versions. They have like comes in forms 3 character base or forms 4.5 and then 6 and then 10G and now 11G. So the APIs to, if we use the FMBs or binary formats of these modules, then we have to change the conversion tool every time when the new version of forms comes using their APIs basically. So to avoid those enhancement or development, what we did, we came up with this idea to use the TXT because the TXTs are created the same way in all versions.
Excellent. Next question. In the converted data blocks, there is one Java class for each item in the block, yes or no?
I will let George to answer that.
I'm not sure George is on audio, actually. You might want to have him step into your office.
Yeah, he's here.
Great.
Yes, it is correct that we generate one Java class for each block, item, and 4 modules. And these classes will be in separate packages to avoid any name conflicts. And as in Oracle Forms, each item, block, or form will have properties and attributes and properties. And also they will have some behavioral components such as triggers and program units. So they were just perfect to create a Java class for each of these components.
Great. And so for those of you that don't know, George is our Director of Development for this CipherSoft product. Thanks, George. All right. I think this next question, I think you just answered, George, which is, are all properties in the forms defined as methods in Java or partly converted to methods?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, your last response, I think, just addressed that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Next question. What are the areas a developer must know to implement future requirements on the converted code? I'm not sure if I understand that question or not. We may need you to elaborate on that, unless George or Khalid, you understand what that question, I'm not quite sure what that means.
What was, can you repeat again, please, Mike?
Sure. What are the areas the developer must know to implement future requirements on converted code?
Like basically the same thing as you normally go through any development process. Like even if you went through forms application the first time, you have to learn what form facilities are, what it can provide you to for development purposes, and all those things. The same is true for Composer CipherSoft. We provide a framework that we can give training on, and there are documentation that you can take on and then say, okay, now if you have to create an item, for example, a new item, what steps you have to take to do that. And if you have to do something like add a new code in there, where to go and how to add that code, or a business logic or a Java code or something like that. So there is a training method available for giving, and documentation available for providing how the development is done on this framework.
Right, and in fact, that kind of leads into something I want to elaborate on. This conversion solution you saw, we offer it as a service, where we do the conversion as a service, or you can license the tool and do your own conversion project. And when you do that, as Khalid has mentioned, we actually have training. It's a 4-day training course that you would go through, or that our customers go through, so that they can do the conversion projects themselves. And the 4-day course has proven to be sufficient for them to be able to do that. But in either case, whether you license the tool to do it yourself, or whether you have us do the conversion as a fixed price project, you get all of the converted code. You get the Java code, the entire Java source for this application to maintain and extend on your own moving forward. Although if you would like our assistance to maintain and extend it, that's something that we can do. But you get all of the Java source code for everything in order to maintain and extend the app. And as Khalid said, you know, we have this framework, these Java classes and methods and libraries that help recreate the functionality of the Oracle Forms framework in Java. You get all of that as well. There's documentation on it. In the training, you learn how to use the APIs so that you can do all of that on your own moving forward. All right. Another question. Now, someone's sending questions through the chat, but let's see if I'll see if we can. Normally, forms have subclassed objects using OLBs. How is this scenario handled in this tool?
OLBs and reference forms are handled normally like OLBs. There is no migration path, but forms contains those OLB. When you open a form and create a text file, form has those OLB reference module components already in there. If the form is referencing from another form as a template form, we can convert the template form and then go from there. I don't have the sharing, but in conversion tool there is an option where you can say that this form that you are converting is a reference form. So next time when you are converting other form that depends on that reference form, it will create the right Java code and reference code and the presentation code automatically. For OLB, we couldn't find anything that will let us migrate to a different Java CSS file or something like that. So OLBs are taken from the forms itself, while reference form can be converted and referenced.
Great. All right, well, we're coming up on the hour, and I don't see any other questions, so we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. But if there are any last-minute questions, you can post them now, and we'll try and get to them if we can as we wrap this up. So Khalid and I want to thank you, and George, want to thank you for participating in the webinar today, and we hope you found it informative. And when you exit the session, please take 30 seconds to let us know how we did on the survey that comes up when you exit. So tell us what you liked. Is it what you expected? If there's things you didn't like, let us know that too. Or are there specific topics you'd like to see in the next webinar? We do these webinars every 2 months or so, and so we like your feedback to adjust these for upcoming topics and webinars. Now, a recorded version of this webinar will be made available on the Composer website in the next 2 days or so. So you can look for it there. There's plenty of other wonderful resources on the website as well, which is what I have up on the slide right now, the composertechnologies.com. And if you have any further interest or questions, you can also send those to your representative. I'm sure they'll be following up with you just to see what you thought about the webinar. And we hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.